Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present some wonderful plot points from a novel. The protagonist Kaia Aalish is in a contradictory state of mind after a battle. She's disgusted with her own cruelty but can't seem to get out of this lifestyle. Her relationship with Matteo is also very complicated. After living in the pack house for a while, she feels out of place there. She tries to fit in but doesn't get Matteo's understanding. So, what kind of inner struggle will she go through when Daniela comes to persuade her to go back? Join me in exploring this novel. Chapter 13, Great Way Did I. Kaia Aalish grunted tiredly as she hurled the severed arm of the dead man lying beside her into the air. Blood gushed from the ragged stump where his limb had once been attached. She stared down at his mutilated figure, a flicker of remorse crossing her face before being quickly suppressed by her cynical nature. Crimson soaked through his dark gravy neck, the metallic scent making her stomach churn with a mixture of nausea and self-loathing. Annoyed by the world and her own actions, Kaia swiftly wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her blood-stained hand, leaving a large red smudge across her skin. Her chest heaved as she struggled to regain her breath, heart pounding wildly in her chest. The familiar sensation of violence induced adrenaline coursed through her veins, a reminder of the troubled path she walked. With a weary sigh, Kaia sank down onto the blood-soaked ground next to her victim. Her clothes were already a mess, so sitting in the gore hardly mattered anymore. She leaned over and lazily snatched the wallet from his jean pocket. Her movements mechanical and detached. "Whoa, a whole 20. She deadpanned sarcastically, her voice dripping with bitter humor. "Thanks, dude," Kaia mumbled, taking the bill and tossing the wallet into a dark red puddle. She held the money in front of her, analyzing it with a mixture of contempt and resignation. Her bloodied fingers fiddled with the edges, leaving crimson stains on its green surface. "I don't even want it anymore," she muttered, flicking away the bill as if it burned her fingers. The past week and a half had been a relentless assault on Kaia's already fragile psyche. While she acknowledged that her actions likely deserved consequences, a small part of her, the abandoned child, still lurking beneath her hard and exterior, yearned for some respite from the universe's apparent vendetta against her. But fate, it seemed, had no intention of cutting her any slack. In the aftermath of her disagreement with Matteo on the training fields, Kaia had surprised herself by returning to the pack house. In that moment of vulnerability, she would have openly admitted to anyone that she, Kaia Aalish, was a coward. She accepted and embraced the title, recognizing the irony of her situation. Despite having countless opportunities to flee to escape pack life and never look back as she had so often threatened, Kaia had instead spent 3 hours sitting in the middle of the woods, wrestling with her conflicted emotions and the pull of a life she both craved and resented. Eventually, I decided that I didn't want to sit in the rain any longer, since it had started raining about 2 hours into the deep contemplation of my life, and went back to the pack house. To say that a lot of people were surprised to see me show back up would be an understatement. One guy actually fell out of his chair, which I found to be slightly extra, but I can dig it. I passed Matteo in the hallway. He was coming out from his office seeming just as pissed off as he had been when I had led the pack to think I was leaving. He stopped in front of me with his brawny arms crossed over his muscular chest. A serious look overcame his face, which I just pushed away, and mumbled a quick "I'm going to the room" as I brushed past him. I really was not in the mood to argue, especially not soaking wet. I tried acting like everything he had said to me didn't affect me, but it actually caused this weird feeling to swell within me. It was suffocating, and I hated it. It was this feeling that made me want to cry and scream at the top of my lungs all at the same time. He made it seem like I never tried, like it didn't kill me to sit in this pack house and attempt to interact with a bunch of people who just see me as some rogue. He made it seem like I didn't care what he wanted, and that angered me to the point where I wanted to smash something. Eventually, I did. The longer I sat in the room alone, the more the anger settled in. With most people, time allows anger to dissipate. Unfortunately for me, my anger cooked and turned my crying feeling into one that had me breaking everything in Matteo's room and eventually the front door on my way the F get out of Matteo after being completely ignored by him for 2 days. Trying to live in that house has been one of the most difficult things that I've ever willingly forced myself to do. I force myself to talk to people and be sort of civil. You just don't get how hard it is to change yourself from how you were raised. I was always taught that the rogue way was the right way. Being with Matteo goes against everything. The only reason I have for wanting to try to be with Matteo was that I was stupid and ignorant. I was also most likely drugged by Satan himself. Well, which? That's what I kept telling myself. Deep down I knew it was because I'd always kind of craved the love my parents shared. Growing up without any love to begin with can do that to a person. I just figured once I found my mate, things would be simpler. I thought he'd be like me and understand how stability frightens me. I also kind of hoped for a more quiet mate. But no. Instead, I got the argumentative, sex god himself who seems to argue with me on every possible thing and avoid affection and any sort of heart-to-heart moment. I'm not complaining. Though Matteo could have been quiet. He could have listened to me and understood me. We could have enjoyed laying in his bed together completely sober and started a life for ourselves. Thankfully, without Matteo and a stash of bourbon involved. We didn't get along very well besides our very few moments. If it hadn't been that way, it'd probably be living the lush life of a pack wolf right in this very moment. Who wants that? Not me. Not ever. But for some reason, I just can't help but crave him. I wanted his lips against my lips. I wanted his body against my body. I wanted to hear him say my name even if it was in that eerily calm way that he does when he is so mad that he has to leave so that he doesn't do something he'll regret, as he likes to say. Even if it makes my heart stop and just for a split second makes me feel like that little girl who woke up to find her parents gone all over again. I still craved him. Wanted him. Needed him. I'm just going to act like I didn't almost just get hit by an arm. A feminine voice spoke up. I snarled viciously and quickly snatched up the voice to see a tall blonde step out from around a tree and into my line of sight. Are you dumb or stupid? I snapped Daniela, pushing myself up from my spot on the ground. She was one of the few people I was silently praying that I'd never have to see again. Her face caused a tightness in my chest because seeing her made me think of him. I could be asking you the same question. Her arms crossed over her chest and her dark eyes were focused directly on me. You're not exactly anymore. Dan, I stated a matter of factly. Is that supposed to mean something? You can't touch me out here. You have no right. So you might as well just run back to Seatta's territory. You really think that is going to stop me? Matteo, Daniela countered. If I don't take you back, he will. I paused for a moment and just watched her as I contemplated what I was going to say. In all honesty, I wanted to jump on her back and ride her like horse all the way back to my mate. But the fact that I could feel my attachment for Matteo growing even while we were apart sickened me. I shook the feelings away. I didn't want to feel them. I couldn't feel them. I refused to let myself sink back into such a pack, wolf state of mind. I figured out of everyone in that King pack, you'd be the one to encourage my disappearance. I countered as I turned away from Daniela and started walking away. Hey, that King pack just happens to mean a lot to me, she snapped, obviously offended by what I had said. They depend on me, and now they depend on you. Believe it or not. They do not depend on me. They barely know me. I hollered back carelessly as I kept walking. You're Matteo's mate whether you like it or not. There's no avoiding it. Not if he never finds me. I shot back. So what? You're just gonna hide. Because he will find you. The moment you take a second to stop and catch your breath. He'll be there. If I can find you. So can he. We'll keep walking. I argued stubbornly. Please try. The more you walk, the faster you'll end up right back into our territory. You can't run from Seatta's. Donnie advised. Her tone was low and cold. It made my veins run cold as if all of the blood within them had frozen over. If I were any other person, I'd no doubt probably shit myself having the gamma of Seatta's back speak so ruthlessly to myself. But I was pretty used to this treatment. Thanks for the suggestion. I growled lowly between clenched teeth. It was a promise. Luna, why do you care so much? I snarled, turning around to face her flawless face, which had a slight divine SS to it, most likely from running. That's my mom, my dad, my sister, my friends, my family, my pack. I know people like you don't really understand that, but for those of us who do, it means everything. And it means a lot more when you have all of those people counting on you to make the right decisions and carry out those decisions. My jaw clenched angrily and my hands clenched into fists, causing my nails to sink into the skin of my palms. What the hell do you mean, people like me? People like you who can just leave people behind who need you the most. That hurt. FKU. I'm not leaving anybody. I defended poorly. I didn't want Daniela to realize she'd managed to hit a nerve, but by the smirk tugging on her full pink lips, I could tell she already noticed. So Jack means nothing to you? She questioned calmly with a smile playing on her lips. Matteo means nothing to you? My top lip curled up, and I snarled viciously at her. She didn't seem frightened at all by this, though, in fact, she seemed amused, which just pissed me off even more. Get the FK away from me before I rip you the hell apart. I snarled, stalking toward her. My eyes stared directly into hers as we challenged each other. Are you trying to prove something? Are you afraid of something? Someone. Knock it off. Scared Matteo is going to leave you like mommy and daddy did. That was the moment I snapped. I don't know how she knew, but something told me that Jack had a pair of loose lips. I'll admit. I was never good at keeping my anger at bay. I never really had to growing up. To be fair, if I got angry to the point of mutilating someone, my dad was proud. My brother was always so much more collected than I had ever been. It was a trait that my father looked down on. My mother always favored Caden a bit more over me for his collectivity. Though I always hated it. But I'm sure he felt the same way about our dad with me, being the child that was not so blessed with the collectivity of Caden that I am. My composure snapped, and I found myself shifting into a light gray mass of fur and muscle. My large body went barreling toward Daniela. I was finally going to get to rip her blonde little head off. That thought alone had me quickening my pace out of pure excitement. The loud thumping of my paws against the ground echoed around us, and it only sounded louder to me due to my wolf hearing. I could practically taste her metallic blood on my canines as my moment was cut short. A sharp pain made a presence on my left side, just in front of my hind leg. The pain spread rapidly to not only my hind leg, but the front one, too, causing me to collapse. It felt as though someone had just replaced every ounce of blood inside of me with ice jagged ice that had me flailing around on the ground in pain as my insides were freezing and burning me alive all at once. I could barely make out Daniela talking to someone else in the background. My cries of agony made their words practically inaudible to my ears as I could feel my body begin to shut down on itself. Wow, what a great way to die. Chapter 14. Aunt do dust. Is mayonnaise an instrument? No, Patrick. Mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either. I could feel my internal clock telling me that it was way too early to be up just yet. I also had a pretty good feeling that I was dead due to the pain in my back. Wasn't quite sure if I was happy or sad about that yet. I grunted in the most unladylike manner as I rolled my body around on whatever cushioned surface I had been placed on. It was the most comfortable thing, but it was definitely a step up from the ground that had been sleeping on the past week and a half. One day, I even slept in a tree until I fell out. The realization that I was obviously not in a place where I should be sleeping had my eyes popping open in a matter of milliseconds. They were met immediately by the images of a SpongeBob SquarePants set this large television placed upon a wooden stand. Vampire Deception by Dwight Mason and E.Y. Glatt. As an undocumented changeling, and forced to pose as a low-level witch, I whispered to myself in total confusion as I began pushing my upper body up from the couch that I had been laying on in an extremely unfamiliar room. I didn't get very far before a sharp pain stung my thigh, causing a hiss to pass through my gritted teeth. As if on cue, a familiar head of dirty, blonde hair made an appearance. Jack. I snarled at him as he walked into the room with aimed toward me. His thick arms were crossed over his brawny chest, making it very hard for me to focus on anything other than his well-built torso being covered by a moderately loose-fitting t-shirt. It took a lot of mental strength to tear my attention from his body to his forest-wide green eyes, which seemed to be a tad darker than normal. I was assuming it was due to the anger I could feel radiating off of him. What the actual hell? Kaia? He snapped at me. It never had the opportunity to see this side of Jack before. Normally, he was laid back and tried to avoid any type of legitimate argument. But that all seemed to fly out the window at this point. The Jack standing in front of me was not the Jack that I had left back at Sienna's territory. I could be asking you the same thing. I fired back with the same amount of hostility he had been giving me. At this, his already clenched jaw clenched even harder, if it were even possible. Kaia, now is not the time, he shouted, his eyes flashing to an even darker shade of green, making me jump in surprise. It was his sudden outburst that startled me. No, it was the fact that I didn't even know Jack was capable of getting this furious. I think Jack realized just how much his extreme contrast in behavior was freaking the heck out of me. He closed his eyes for a moment and took in a deep breath before speaking again. Worst rest, he stated quietly with his eyes still closed. I was sure if he was referring to he and the pack, he and Matteo, or he and his wolf, but I was just going to assume the latter based on the previous events. I'm not a therapist. You didn't have to kidnap me just to vent about your problems. I'm sure there's a whack of people who would be more than happy to aid you with your stress. I replied, as the words came out. I was internally kicking myself in the shin. I'd never had a problem being rude before, but as Jack's eyes popped open to stare into mine with betrayal looming within them, I couldn't help but hate myself a little bit. I wanted to throw up in my mouth. Honestly, I thought I was going to. You can't tell me that you're actually happy living like this, Jack said, disregarding my verbal jab at him, which I was grateful for. It made me feel less bad that he didn't seem very affected by it. I'm fine, I put bluntly. I moved my eyes to the floor, not being able to stand seeing the emotions in Jack's any longer. But are you happy? He challenged, causing my teeth to grind together. Was I happy? At one time. Yes, am I happy now? It's complicated, I said. I'm fine, I snapped, putting an end to that conversation. The two of us just sat in silence for a moment. I figured Jack was going to leave, but instead, another person decided to stroll on in. Good morning, our fearless fugitive, Daniela chirped as she plopped down on a recliner across from me. She lifted a pastel yellow coffee cup to her lips as her eyes analyzed the scene in front of her, which consisted of a very annoyed Jack and now very annoyed me. It was far-fetched to think that Daniela would magically become annoyed next. Oh. I sensed some tension. Did Jack and Kai actually fight about something? Daniela taunted. Knock it off, Donnie, Jack snapped. Daniela just chuckled and sipped her coffee. She was obviously enjoying this. Okay, so where are we? And why are we here? I finally spoke up as I forced myself to sit up. I winced the entire way. I could see the wheels turning in Jack's head. It was obvious that he wanted to help me, but he refrained from doing so. It made my heart hurt knowing I'd managed to make him that upset with me. I pushed away those friendly feelings and diverted my attention to Donnie. I didn't have time to feel things in my heart. Well, we are currently about 2 miles into the western border of Sienna's territory, about 5 hours by car away from the main pack grounds. Daniela replied cheekily. We're in Sienna's. I snapped angrily. I didn't want to be here. You guys know, I'm not a pack wolf. I made this very clear when I left. Oh, shut up. Kaia. Donnie interrupted me. Stop acting like this is what you want. Why wouldn't this be what I want? I disputed like a 5-year-old. Because nobody wants to be alone. Stupid. Well, I do. So why am I here? Donnie rolled her eyes at me and looked over to Jack. You tell her. I'm annoyed already. she barked while she sipped at her coffee. With a huff, Jack turned to me and began talking. Matteo went looking for you after you left, and he hasn't been back. Everything back home is a bit shuffled at the moment without the alpha. He left suddenly, which caused the pack to panic a bit, and I doubt he's going to stop looking for you until you're back, Jack explained. Yeah, so instead of staying on pack grounds and taking care of the pack like the responsible, ranking wolves that we are, I suggested that we should probably find you ourselves. Daniela interjected. So you plan this? I asked, genuinely amazed. I figured after seeing Jack that he was the mastermind behind the expedition, definitely not Daniela. Don't get it twisted. Kaia, if you're not there, Matteo West not there, and without an alpha holding a pack together, everything begins to crumble, and I don't do dust. Donnie clarified, making me lose whatever hope that she could be a good person I had for her. So who thought it would be a good idea to shoot me? It didn't take a genius to realize that the sharp pain had been caused by a silver bullet. Silver in the right doses can kill a werewolf. It's one of the things that we struggle to heal from. Our bodies react to something in the element which can ultimately cause entire systems to shut down. Tragic, but true. That explains the intense feeling of being set on fire that I had felt when I was about to rip Daniel Loss' head off. I wish I could say it was me, Donnie replied, answering my question, but I gotta hand it to Loverboy. On this one, my mouth dropped in shock as my eyes connected with the culprit. I am shook, I said blatantly. After all this time, I thought Dan was the one who wanted to pop a bullet in my ass. Oh no, I do. Donnie interrupted, causing Jack to roll his eyes. Hence why I didn't give you the gun. He retorted. There wasn't even enough silver in it to kill her if I wanted to. She scoffed. And I was the one who made the bullet. So relax. You couldn't have thought of a less painful way to get me here. I snapped, rubbing my side as I remembered the pain that they had caused me. Less painful for you. Yes, less painful for us. No, Donnie chimed. Besides, we could have made it worse and just shot you in human form. At least I made sure you were shifted before giving Jack the okay. Am I supposed to thank you? She must actually be insane if she thinks I'm going to be okay with her and Jack shooting me just because they made it a little less painful. It suggested. Okay, will you two shut up for a second, so we can figure this the hell out? Jack burst in, trying to silence our argument. Kaia, I know that for whatever reason you don't like to be a part of a pack, but you need to come back. You're a part of this now. You can't just hide from something that is destined to happen. If you wanted me back so badly, why didn't you just take me there in the first place? You started waking up way earlier than anticipated, and would rather not have you wake up in the middle of driving and cause a wreck. Jack explained. That makes sense. I guess. Well, you can't just tell me that some magical force is going to dictate my life. If this was any other situation, no one would care. If he was my mate, then life would just go on like it should be. You guys just need to let it go. I testified. Yeah, well, that can't happen because quite frankly Teo is your mate. And this is a situation that we can't just let go of. We need you. 'Cause you guys have survived just fine without me. I'm not really much of an asset. I muttered, trying my hardest to seem like I had a convincing argument. Just because you can't see your importance doesn't mean it's not there. The only importance in my life is trying to stay alive. So why not just come back? Jack asked. I could see the stress building up in his eyes the more that I denied his offer. You'll be safe and alive. Matteo would never let anyone hurt you. He would die before you even had the chance. Because, Jack, that's not who I am. That's not me. I stated strongly. You can't just throw a fish in the air and tell it to fly. But this is you, running around killing for fun. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't seem to thrill to slaughter that dude earlier. You looked like you were 2 seconds away from a breakdown. My brows knitted together in confusions as my arms crossed over my chest weakly. I don't cry. It gotten close a few times lately. But I hadn't legitimately cried due to emotion a long time. I didn't cry when my parents left me. I didn't even cry when my brother left me. Face it, Kaia, you aren't happy. Just come back. Jack urged softly. I clenched my teeth together, shaking my head. I can't. Yes, you can. We can leave right now. No, Jack. I really can't. I really can't. I repeated with a hint of finality lacing into my tone. Jack completely overlooked it. What are you trying to prove here? He questioned, making something in my brain tick. You don't understand. I growled out as I moved my heavy gaze to the floor. I couldn't find it within myself to make eye contact with him. In all honesty, I was scared that if I did, they'd fall apart. There was something about those cool, green eyes that made me feel a bit more vulnerable than normal. It reminded me of when I was younger when I was with my brother. Are you trying to prove something to your parents? I clenched my teeth together hard and scrunched my nose up. Jack. No, stop. I snapped, trying to sound strong. But I think everyone in the room could tell that Jack was hitting a soft spot for me. And he wasn't really letting up. He was on a mission to break me down. You're trying to prove yourself to people who abandon you. They aren't coming back. Kaia, you're holding on to a memory. They're not worth it. They left you. I swear. I heard something break in the moment, whether it be my pride, my composure, or the one most disturbed by my heart. Something definitely shattered. Though, the rough edges digging into my soul making me want to scream. Fine. I'll go. Just stop talking. I shouted, trying to ignore what I already knew was true. They left me. And most likely were not coming back, whether that be because they are dead or they just don't care. I don't think Jack really understands how touchy that subject is for me. If he did, I doubt he'd use it against me. The whole story is sort of tragic. To be honest, you wake up one morning when you're 13 to find your brother gone. Your parents have no clue where he went, no one does. The only real friend you've ever had just vanished without telling you or anyone where he was going or why. Then a year later, your parents abandon you, and you're left sitting in a shitty little motel room alone. You wait, and wait, and wait, and wait, hoping they come back, but they never do. You were completely and utterly abandoned. I was completely and utterly abandoned. My parents weren't coming back. My brother was coming back. And neither was I. Well, I didn't know you had it in you. Lover boy. Daniela chirped, sipping on her coffee once more, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Let's go home. I need a nail file. ASAP. Chapter 15. Wolves can't unlock iPhones. Truth be told, I was never really good in high-stress situations. I tended to panic and say whatever I could to avoid them. It was one of the things my dad hated about me. Like I said, I never had the collectivity of Caden physically or emotionally. Caden was a bit of a stoic. It was that he had full control over his emotions. He was just really good at locking them away. I, on the other hand, fought with my emotions on a day-to-day basis. I'm an emotional girl. What can I say? I don't mean emotional like I cried a lot. No, gross. I mean emotional like everything would just build up and eventually feel like I was being suffocated. It normally never ended well when I got to the point of just snapping. I suppose that was what kind of happened between Jack and I. I wanted to punch myself several times in the face for giving in so easily. I can see now why my father blatantly told me how much he hated how emotional I could get when I was younger. He always said, rogues don't feel. They just do. But I was more of a feel and then do kind of person. Caden was more of a just don't person all around. Don't feel. Don't do. Probably one of the reasons my dad had said he wanted to disown him so many times. He never meant it. Though, for the first time in a while, I was having a war with my head and my heart. My head because I was trying to deal with the thoughts of what could be and what already had been. My own thoughts were practically eating me alive. My heart, on the contrary, was involved due to Matteo being involved. The mate bond was a wicked thing. Let me just say, The way it managed to get into my head and make me do things I think of doing confused me and concerned me at the same time, maybe even scared me a little bit. It never admitted. But at this point I just felt drained. I couldn't help how I felt towards him. I hated to deny it, to push it away, but I felt stuck. I wanted Matteo, but not his way of living. But then again, a little part of me kind of craved it. I just blame it on the whole mate thing. It's just not easy giving up rogue life when that's all I've known. It keeps me attached to my parents. Even though they left, there was still that small chance that they could come back floating around in the back of my mind. And I'd be standing there with open arms when they did. I suppose the thing I craved about it was the permanency of it, which also happens to be the thing that scared me the most. Normally, if I had any sort of issue, I could just run away from it. That's not really the case anymore. The issue I have currently is forced upon me by fate, and whether it is a curse or blessing, I can't outrun fate. That seems to be making itself obvious. It feels extremely unnatural but natural at the same time, and it's confusing the heck out of me. It's almost like tasting a food when you aren't sure if you really like the flavor on the first bite, so you take another just to taste it again, and it ends up tasting exactly the same, but you still just don't know if you like it or not. I don't know. All that I can say is that I was confused by what I was taught to be right and what I feel is right. I'm stuck between just accepting that Matteo is my mate and being in a pack isn't making it out to be, or face the mental disappointment of my father and possible future regret if being part of a pack is everything my dad told me it was. I probably would have already figured out my situation 2 days ago if anyone could get a hold of Matteo, who still happens to be looking for me, even though I'm currently laying in his bedroom. From what I had gathered from Jack and a few brief conversations, Matteo has most likely to be gone insane and has allowed his wolf to take over in order to track me down, hence why you won't answer his stupid phone, because Wolf can't unlock an iPhone or HES dead. I chose to ignore the second option when Donnie had offered up the idea by simply telling Jack and Donnie that if they didn't leave me alone, I'd strangle them with their socks through the locked door. The door has quite literally remained locked. I only leave when I get hungry about once or twice every hour, but I just don't have the mental strength to deal with people. I also couldn't pull myself to look at Daniela in the eye after she witnessed me panic like a 5-year-old at the mention of my parents abandoning me. It's a cringe-worthy moment for me. Jack comes up and has a nice conversation with the other side of the door often. I know he feels sorry for what he did, even though I'd never said or done anything in the past to show him how much my parents leaving had affected me. I know he did due to the 79 times he had said sorry and counting. I made it seem like I was chill with my parents leaving when we had spoken about it before. And I know that. Something deep within me makes me want to go hug him and tell him it's okay, but I'm a little disturbed by it, so I choose to ignore it and use that to fuel the pettiness I have toward him at the moment. I kind of felt like my miserable self being locked up in B and I feels again, trying my hardest to ignore Dallas. I was currently making my way out of the shower when a very loud knock rapped on the outside of the door. My fashion for the evening consisted of a pair of vibrant green underwear covered by a pair of gray running shorts that my butt cheeks felt like they might fall out of, and a whitish gray shirt I stole from Matteo's closet. My hair was still soaked from my shower, which made the back of Matteo's shirt uncomfortably wet. I groaned loudly as I stomped over to the door. I had just assumed the person who repeatedly to knock on my door was Jack. I'd left him there when I had decided that taking a shower would be better than facing my problems. Just being my normal, cutty, arrogant, self-avoiding things I really shouldn't be. I aggressively opened the door, snapping at the person behind it with a quick what, expecting to see a familiar lie of green eyes, but was genuinely surprised when I hadn't. Instead, I was matched with a pair of dark brown ones that made me want to blow off my left leg with a firework. "Oh, it's you, it's you," I grunted as I began shutting the door in Daniela's face, but she managed to wedge her foot in between the door and the frame before I could completely shut it. "Yeah, it's me," she barked as she pried the door back open. "And unfortunately for you, I'm not quite as easily ignored as Jack." "That's a matter of opinion," I stated with my arms crossed. She stepped past me and into the room, making her way over to the bed where she took a seat. Well, as a witch, well. I'm already in the bedroom after like 20 seconds of trying, which is like 2 days faster than Jack. So it's say I'm winning, she concluded, running her freshly manicured nails through her long, blonde hair. Exactly. I can ignore even as you're in the same room as me. I commented cocky, walking past her to go crawl into the bed, but her hand grasped my wrist. My eyes snapped to hers, and my lip curled up into a snarl. Donnie just rolled her eyes at me and motioned to the bed beside her. Sit down. We need to talk to you, she ordered, causing my eyes to narrow. Being highly offensive, but last time we had a talk I ended up with a silver bullet in my side. That was different kind of talk. Am clean. Wanna pat me down? Donnie questioned as she raised her arms in the air. Her brows were raised, giving me a look that said, try me. Please. Am waiting. With her dark eyes. Fine. I huffed. Talk. First of all, you need to talk to Jack. Just the mention of his name had my eyes roll, even when he was trying to get me to talk to him through my door. Someone was still trying to get us on speaking terms. No, you're being dumb, and Daniela accused. Now, knock it off and solve your goddamn issues, because that boy just wants what is best for you. Well, that sounded weird. Someone actually wanting what is best for me. Because he knows what's best for me. Yes, he does. And you do too. So cut the crap. Kaia. Jack might baby you a little more than I do. But I'm not going to sit here while you ruin your life. I'm not ruining my life by not talking to Jack. Yeah, but you're going to ruin it by not letting anyone in but your imaginary friends. She retorted, which offended me way more than it should have. I have friends. Hayden was my friend. I think. And I'm pretty sure Dallas would be my friend if I said sorry and twirled my hair around my finger a few times. I don't have imaginary friends. Asshole, was my absolute genius remark. Well, I was trying to give you at least one. I do have friends. Who, Jack? She asked, getting up from the bed. I was about to give her a piece of my mind, clarifying that I do possibly have two friends, but she continued talking. Yeah, okay. Some friends you are trying to tell someone how mates work when they already went through it. She snapped harshly, making her way over to the door. That shut me down real quick. I think my brain actually shut down for a second. Am I even breathing? Did I blink? Wait, what? I'm not repeating myself. No, what do you mean he already went through it? He doesn't like to talk about it. The look in Daniela's eyes told me what I needed to know and already assumed she meant. He had a mate. She nodded meekly to my question with her head down, as if she knew that by telling me she was doing something very wrong. What happened to her? I pressed. Gone. Gone as in. Dead. I'm pretty sure my face paled. It made sense. Though, as a witch, though. Why Jack was so obsessed with the whole idea of mate and fate and whatnot. He understood because he experienced it. I swear to the moon, if you bring this up to Jack, he'll personally make sure you never have the opportunity to say another obnoxious remark again. Daniela threatened. I could tell Jack's mate must have been a very touchy subject for him. The asshole within me wanted to bring it up just as payback for bringing up my parents, but I just cowed and seemed to pull myself to do it. Before, I would have done it into seconds flat. I would have bolted out of this room just to do so, but I just cowed and bring myself to stoop that low. All right. I didn't know. I mumbled, slightly annoyed by her yelling at me, even though I didn't really say anything. Yay, well, he doesn't like people to know, she stated, which just made me even more curious. Why not? I don't know. He just chooses to act like nothing ever happened. It's how he copes, I guess. How did it happen? Freak accident. It happened a while ago, and it did some damage to all of us. Okay? She was our friend, so I'd rather not get into the gory details. Thank you, Donnie stated, suddenly becoming defensive. I was slightly taken back by the sudden emotion coming from her. Although it was still her usual rude behavior, it was different. It seemed emotion-driven. I'm sorry. Yeah, whatever. Donnie muttered, shooing away my apology like it was no big deal. Well, excuse me. That was a huge deal for me. I rarely apologize. Will you please just talk to Jack and actually listen to what he has to say? I know he sounds like HES often just spewing mushy-gushy nonsense, but he just wants to help you, she said, turning to head out the door. Thank you, Dan, I said, sincerely, causing her to go tense and freeze in her spot, for not being a complete prick. With the end of my statement, her body seemed to relax. She turned around and shot me a dazzling smile. Don't mention it. She winked before turning back around to leave. Seriously, don't ever talk about it. And with a harsh slam of the door, she left the room. I knew what I had to do. I felt like a big, stupid idiot. But I knew what I had to do. First of all, I needed to go talk things out with Jack. Then, I need to listen to his boring speeches about fate, and actually take them seriously and learn from them. And after I do that, then I can go be mentally shaken over the fact that Yella actually tried to help me and be decent for once. With my mind made up, I bounded out of the room. I was on a mission. If fate wanted me to be a rogue the rest of my life, I wouldn't be mates to an alpha. Plain and simple. No matter how much I pretty much hated it. Sure, my dad would be so disappointed, but my mom would be proud of me. I hope she would. You know what? The more I think about it, the worse this plan sounds. I was about to turn back around, completely abort the mission, and head back up to the room when the front door flew open, scaring the crap out of me. It almost made me pee myself. My sense of smell was invaded by the most perfect, panty, dropping, mouth-watering scent that had grown to be addicted to, and my eyes found a tired pair of deep, blue orbs framed by full, dark lashes. His dark, disheveled hair accompanied by tired eyes with bags to go along with them. Somehow, even as a mess, he was still the most bang-able thing on the face of the planet. He was like sex on legs. In that moment, I didn't even care about finding Jack anymore. I didn't need Jack's words of wisdom. After the man in front of me spoke just 3 words, I knew that I no longer wanted to prove to my parents what I could do. But to him, because although his words felt sincere, I could still sense the underlying doubt in the way he looked at me. At this point, it might be the mate bond talking, but I was determined. I'm so sorry. I am definitely going to regret this decision later, I thought to myself as I surprised Matteo by running into his muscular arms, enjoying every minute of being held by him. Oh yeah, definitely going to regret this. Chapter 16, Angry Sex. What? No big argument then, no. No screaming match. Nope. No angry sex. I wish. What? Nothing. I quickly recovered from my own bluntness, watching Jack's face morph into one of confusion. I was positive whether it was because he hadn't heard me clearly, or because he had heard me too clearly. But I recovered. I've decided that it is in my best interest to accept what is. Besides, it's a lot less work for me to protect myself if in here. Freaking 10-year-olds want me dead. Can you believe it? Tubbs. I scoffed, making up some lame excuse. I was still working on the whole accepting thing, so for now I was just making small, little excuses as to why I chose to stick around. Jack and I were now on speaking terms. To say I was happy about it would be an understatement. It lifted a heavy weight off of my chest that I hadn't even realized was a possibility for me to have to be able to talk to the one person I now consider a friend, since I don't really have any connection to Hayden or Dallas anymore. He was still trying to apologize about bringing up my parents. I just told him to shut up and acted like it didn't bother me anymore. Truthfully, it did. A lot. But there was absolutely no way I was going to show weakness pertaining to my parents again. It made me cringe every time I think back to it. Daniela has been acting like the conversation we had never even took place. I'm not really bothered by it. I don't really expect too much from her as it is. Matteo and I, well, there's not a... We ended up just standing in the hallway for what felt like hours, just wrapped in each other's arms. am positive that I couldn't count how many times he muffled out "I'm sorry" and never mean it into my hair as he held me against his strong chest with those thick arms of his. A part of me just felt flat out weird for not starting an argument with him or blaming him for everything that had happened. I wanted to tell him how stupid, hurtful, and insensitive he had been because I was just trying to help. But something else inside of me overpowered all of that. Something kept me anchored to Matteo and refused to say anything other than "It's okay and I know." After our much-needed embrace, I forced Matteo to go get a shower even though he didn't want to leave me in fear that I'd run again. After telling him how much of an idiot he sounded, he eventually agreed to a shower once I'd promised to make him something to eat. Neither of us said a word to each other as Matteo ate his dinner, which consisted of a ham sandwich and some French fries for fear of starting another fight. Instead, we just sat at the island enjoying each other's company. The silence continued until we went to bed directly after he had finished his meal. It only broke when Matteo whispered a tired "I'm not letting you leave me" again to my half-asleep self. The possessiveness in his tone and gestures as his arms tight and around my torso, which I had willingly allowed myself to cuddle up next to him, and his lips placing a soft kiss to the crown of my head brought a smile to my face. It felt good to feel wanted, to feel cared for. It brought a warmth in my chest that I hadn't felt in a while. But it was especially peculiar due to the warm, sparking sensation that occurred between Matteo and I as we touched. It just made it seem so much better. The mate bond works in some mysterious ways. I woke up to be greeted by Jack and not Matteo. My exact words to the blonde-haired boy standing in my doorway were, "Is there a reason you're watching me sleep? Or are you just into that kind of stuff?" Earning me the weirdest look of a lifetime and a rapid fire of sorries from Jack. Like I had said, I shrugged them off, telling him that I was over it. I wasn't exactly pleased that Matteo had left before I woke up. Though, I couldn't find a single reason why we seemed to be compatible. In my opinion, we really weren't. We could barely get along unless we weren't speaking to one another. I just wanted to wake up and have him tell me good morning while we were in bed for once. What did you do that put you on the werewolves' most hunted list? Anyway, Jack asked as I slurped down my go-gurt. Really? Werewolves most hunted? Yeah. It's funny. It's lame. And I didn't do anything. I defended, standing up to throw away my wrapper. And just a bit more outgoing than most rogues. So my face ends to be a familiar one to most. I'll take your word for it, Jack said, seemingly unconvinced. I just rolled my eyes and walked out of the kitchen. Where are you going? Gonna go have some angry sex. Feel free to join, I shouted back, not caring who heard me in the process. Oh my god. I didn't need to know that. I chose to ignore Jack's comment with a small chuckle. I was grateful that Jack had stopped apologizing and was acting like his normal self again. It's made staying here much easier for me. I easily made my way down the hall to Matteo's office. As normal, Packwolf stood at attention as I walked past them. I knew it probably was out of respect for me, seeing as how I hadn't done anything to earn their respect. It was most likely out of respect for their alpha, Matteo. I came up to the familiar door that I had both good and bad experiences walking through. I was about to just twist the knob and walk in, but I stopped myself. Knock first, I mumbled to myself before removing my hand from the doorknob. I curled my fingers into a fist and knocked on the cool wood with my knuckles. I thought I knocked lightly, but the knock ended up sounding quite violent. I was really trying to level with Matteo here. Trying to fit into the pack house was hard, so it was really in my agenda at this point. I did feel bad, though I had most likely caused Matteo a world of hell ever since I showed up here. The least I could do is knock for once instead of just barging in and interrupting him. "I'm coming in," I stated, not really giving him an option. Before he had time to reply, I had the door open. Our eyes connected immediately. I could easily spot the confusion in them, but it quickly vanished as his face morphed into a sorry expression. "Listen, Kai, I really am sorry. He began to say. That I put my hand up, choosing his words. "I don't want to hear it," I interrupted him. "Seriously, I just want to forget it even happened. I turned and closed the heavy door behind me. As I turned back around, Matteo had moved from his swivel chair at his desk just to stand in front of me. For once, Matteo didn't seem mad or annoyed in my presence. His jaw was slack and a small frown graced his handsome features. But what were you doing? I interrupted him again. I diverted my gaze to his desk, causing him to turn to look at what I was focused on. I wasn't actually looking at anything specific. I was just trying to avoid another argument. Paperwork. He shrugged out, looking back at me with furrowed brows. I can help, I chimed, which, by the look on his face, it took him by surprise. You want to. I mean, if you don't want me to, I don't have to. I just figured it'd offer. I grumbled. No, you can help, Matteo said, seeming very unsure of what he was agreeing to. Jeez, dude. It's not like you're handing over our firstborn child. Matteo led me over to his desk. I was going to grab my own chair to sit down on from the other side of his desk, but he pulled me down onto his lap instead. Grab by, I commented, staring down at his large hands holding me down by my hips. I could only imagine what those hands would feel like all over my body if we were without clothes. I enjoy being able to hold what's mine, Matteo stated simply. It's not that I enjoy being seen as Matteo's possession, but the room got about 10 degrees hotter for me after he said that. Maybe it got hotter for him too. Maybe he should take his shirt off. Maybe I should. Maybe we should just both get without clothes. Possibilities. So what am I asked, trying to push my inner slut to the back of my mind. Matteo pulled out a stack of papers in front of me. I'm pretty sure I've visibly paled. I really didn't think this one through. Just separate the ones that I need to read over and sign from the ones that I don't. He said it as though it was the simplest thing in the world, but I was panicking on the inside. How do I know that? I asked, staring down at all of the big words on the first document. Something with a something. It'll say that it calls for a signature. Just skim through them. I'll double check later, Matteo advised obsessively as he started writing some numbers on a piece of paper. Signature. That word has a G in it, right? After about an hour, I finally split up all the papers into 2 piles. Let me just say, I wanted to do a cross between rip my hair out and cry by the end of it. I had to do a lot of frustrating things in my life, but that by far was the worst. I'm done, I said, much quieter than normal. If Matteo noticed it. He didn't make it apparent. He just looked over at the 2 piles and shot me a small smile. These ones are the ones that you need to sign. I motioned toward the pile to my right, which was closest to Matteo. Without a word, he picked up the first paper and read it over. His brows slowly knit together, causing me to start gnawing on the inside of my bottom lip. When he flipped the paper over just to be greeted by a blank white sheet of paper, that's when I started to die a little bit inside. I was embarrassed. So embarrassed. Can you tell me where it says to sign this? Matteo asked as his eyes scanned over the paper once again. Yeah. Right there, I said, pointing to a word that I thought said signature. Matteo just became even more confused as his eyes moved from the word on the paper to my face, which was no doubt either ghostly white or as red as the blood of the various people that I've killed. Kai, that says significantly. I was closer than I thought. Oh, my bad. I must have read it wrong. I laughed it off. Matteo just shook his head at me, but I caught the little smile blossoming on his face as he took another paper from the pile. Again, he became confused. He didn't say anything, though. Instead, he placed the paper down and picked up another one just to have the same expression. Are you sure this is the right pile? His beautifully dark eyes looked to greet mine. Yeah. I stuttered as I looked down at the desk. I hate myself. I hate myself. I hate myself. I was too embarrassed to even look at him. Kaia, can you read the sentence right here? Matteo asked. My heart raced rapidly, and I cursed Matteo's entire existence in that moment. What was I thinking helping him with paperwork? I raised my eyes from the desk to look at the sentence that Matteo was pointing to. I refused to look at Matteo. He was probably going to laugh at me or yell at me like my dad used to. Well, I started, taking in a deep breath preparing for my impending doom. The eye froze. I literally got one word in. And I froze. Lots of letters. I tried sounding it out in my head, but there were just too many letters. The more I stared at it, the more confused I got. Do two Rs make one R sound, or do they make two separate sounds? Am I supposed to pronounce the E or is it silent? Wait, no, isn't that just when it's at the end? Apparent. I asked slowly, already knowing I was right. There was even a P in the word I was looking at. Arrangement. It's as arrangement. I cringed immediately. This was embarrassing. I just stayed silent, staring down at the paper. I wanted to get up and leave, but something inside of me held me in my place. It kept me from leaving this very awful situation. At least Matteo and I weren't fighting. Though, that was definitely a plus. Kaia, do you not know how to read? Again, cringe. Slowly, I shook my head. Or right? I mumbled. Didn't you go to school? Again, I shook my head. My dad said I'd never do anything in my life that would make it necessary. Harsh but true. My dad had drilled into the minds of my brother and any other future than being rogues. He said that's all that we were good for, but he only did it to make us better. He just wanted us to be the toughest wolves possible. Sounds like a prick. Matteo commented harshly. He obviously didn't like my dad now. He was a prick. I argued. He just didn't expect a lot from us with stuff like that. Look at me, Matteo ordered. I could tell he was trying to say it softly, which was something I never really experienced him do before. It was the softest thing in the world. It still came out pretty stern. But I let it go. I was starting a fight. Matteo's hand came under my chin, forcing me to look up at him. I expected him to look just a little disappointed, but he just looked kind of stoic. I couldn't really read him. Don't beat yourself up over this. It's not worth it. It's embarrassing. I pouted like a 5-year-old. Embarrassing was an understatement at this point. My pride was being pulverized. I'm a 19-year-old who can recognize the word agreement. Arrangement. Matteo corrected, making my frown deepen. Yay, thanks. I grunted. I knew Matteo was at a loss of words at this point. I didn't blame him. I wouldn't know what to say to him if our places were switched. I'm sure HES trying not to start an argument just as much as I was. I was about to get up and just leave while I still had a little teeny tiny bit of my pride left when Matteo leaned in and brought his lips to mine. It took me by surprise at first, but I melted into him after a second. His left hand gripped my side and pulled me closer to him as his right hand held my chin, keeping my face exactly where he wanted it. I was undoubtedly falling deeper and deeper into this whole mate mess. And, right now, I couldn't possibly care less. If only we could stay like this forever.